Hello, as I poke my eye out here in my own universe. Welcome to my world, you guys. um, yeah, this is my weekly Making Sense of Sense live chat. I go live here because, I want to share what I know about scent and making sense of it. So anyway, welcome. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about, initially I came onto this thinking about safety, and then it kind of expanded into digestion, so essential oils and digestion, and then I went full board and just decided I was going to throw some trauma into this as well, because in my opinion, trauma is the disease that initiates all disease. And while we recognize it for many people, it varies. Okay, so it's mental, emotional, physical, as well as environmental. It's anything that distresses the system and throws it into survival mode. That to me is the definition of trauma, and I understand that some people have suffered significantly at the hands of trauma, which is nothing that I don't wish upon anybody. So please understand that when trauma though registers, the world then becomes a trigger. Everything becomes a trigger. So making sense of sense today and essential oils is really about helping. Like I said, it started in just with safety, and then I wanted to throw in digestion, but trauma actually impacts digestion. So talking about why we use oils to help improve the way, not just our mental and emotional response to the world, but actually supporting the digestive system, because ultimately all health issues do stem from, as I said, the fact that the digestive system is disrupted, and now, which is a result of trauma. And how that happens is that it begins to activate the autonomic nervous system and the sympathetic nervous system more specifically. So ultimately what we want to do is dial that down by supporting the parasympathetic nervous system, which is very easily done with oils, and how you can take this into every area of your life. But again, when trauma distresses the system and then the world becomes an ongoing trigger, then you have the body no longer is able to break down the macronutrients. We have this thing that for years we heard of leaky gut syndrome. I don't hear of it as often, although I do know that it's still talked about. But leaky gut does not mean that you have holes in your digestive system. It simply means that the macronutrients aren't being broken down well enough to be assimilated into the cells. There again, this is one of the reasons why oils are very helpful, because they not only support the digestive system, and they begin to settle, establish a more parasympathetic activity, which initiates acetylcholine through the digestive system, supports the use of hydrochloric acid. They also assist the cells with assimilating the nutrients. But the bottom line, again, is we don't break down the macronutrients. This has been equated to leaky gut. But ultimately what leaky gut really is larger particles circulating throughout the system that the body can no longer recognize as usable foods sources. So now it sets out to attack it, because it thinks they are microbes, and so the body begins to attack itself. This is where autoimmune disorders come in. This is an oversimplification, yes, but the fact is that when we assess the body and realize that we can incorporate oils that not only support, again, the mental and emotional reaction to triggers, it begins to support the digestive system. And this is what makes, and then these things can be taken into massage. When you get a massage, these are things that can be used every day. I highly recommend doing these kinds of things with our children, because our children are being exposed to so many different things. This world has become exceedingly stressful. And so being able to incorporate oils for that purpose. The gut, the mind, the body, or how do I want to say this? The gut-brain relationship is the gut actually mirrors the mind. So there's actually 90% of the neurons are, I don't know if I've ever said this before, that the digestive system itself has more nerve endings in it than the spine. And the gut actually mirrors the mind. So if the mind is being triggered, the gut is going to react. That's how the digestive system begins to become sluggish, and why we no longer are using. And this is the reason why we develop things like brain fog, depression, anxiety, irritability, digestive disruption, things could be gas, could be indigestion, you name it. So what I like to recommend are oils very specifically for their chemical makeup, and as well as for what they can do. Because a lot of times what happens also, one of the other things I wanted to say is when we are tense and we carry a lot of stress in our back, okay, and our psoas muscles. This is oftentimes what your lower back, and this is where people go in and want to have work done. You could actually take a blend of rosemary, verbone, black pepper, myrrh, and some turmeric, and you could actually rub it on that area. It's going to help open those muscles up, bring circulation into that area, and in the meantime be supporting the digestive system, because those tense muscles actually gets translated back up into the digestive system. So it becomes this cycle of disruption. So again, I like to choose oils based on their chemistry, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a list together and actually list it when I post, when this finally posts, it'll be available, all of the oils that'll be available. But I like to consider oils that have alpha pinene in them. Alpha pinene actually supports the use of acetylcholine further than just activating the sympathetic nervous system. I'm sitting here in the sunlight and my face is getting really hot because I have a sweater on. So oils with with alpha pinene are really very good. Other oils I would recommend would include betacarothylene. Betacarothylene is actually known to support the phosphorylation pathway, which now communicates to the DNA, and then it supports the reduction of oxidative stress. It also helps to reduce histamine levels in the body, and better supporting the use of nitric oxide. So I do like oils like, well, in this case, if I'm thinking about a massage, and truthfully, things that are more supportive. Again, so I want to back up a minute and just say that when I talk about the chemistry, it's important to understand that chemicals, many oils have similar chemicals, is what I want to say. So just because, so I probably want to reframe how I said all this. So just because it has alpha pinene, it doesn't necessarily make it as good for what we're talking about here when it comes to digestion and trauma. It depends on really what's going on in the system. So the oil list that I'm providing is actually one that's beneficial for most people, and it's the safest to use given the fact that most people who have suffered from trauma, and for that matter, the statistics state that 65% of the people of the United States alone take some type of medication. So I was thinking of oils with beta-carothylene in it, to be specific, but if you use something like copaiba in your practice or your daily use, you want to make sure that you're not pairing that with any type of psychotropic medication, because beta-carothylene is a cannabinoid. It has the same influence in the body as CBD, although CBD does not communicate for the phosphorylation pathway. So although when I say they have a similar pathway, they both influence the same endocannabinoid receptors, but beta-carothylene has been found to actually go even deeper into the cells. So you don't want to use copaiba, anything that has high percentage of beta-carothylene. So in this case, thinking about it, like I mentioned earlier, black pepper would be really good because it is warming, it does increase circulation, it does contain beta-carothylene, and it also supports digestion. So that would be one reason for that particular one. Again, it really depends if you're a massage therapist, what your clients are dealing with, but at no point in time do we want to be taking oils by mouth. This has nothing to do with the quality of the oil, nothing to do with that. Because I know that there's a lot of people that say, well, you have to be careful if the oil is adulterated. Well, Yeah, but we drink things like Diet Coke. There's a lot of things. We drink Red Bull, we drink all kinds of drinks that have things added to it. So it doesn't, taking an essential oil that might be adulterated by mouth isn't any different than drinking anything else like that. So that's not my argument. My argument is you don't want to take them, especially if they're authentic oils by mouth, because of the fact that they're metabolized differently in the body. So, yeah, so if they're adulterated, just consider it's like drinking a can of soda, or that part doesn't matter. It's the ones you really don't want to take by mouth are the authentic oils, because they are metabolized, and they're metabolized differently than if they were placed on the skin, or if you sat in bath and used oils that way, because there's an oral interaction that occurs when combined with medications. So taking authentic essential oils with the medication by mouth is not advisable. That's the big safety issue that I would say right there. That is the biggest one that I'm really most concerned about, because you don't know how much you're getting by mouth, number one, and number two, the oral dosages are used differently by the body than they are if you apply them topically. And then the other factor about oils and digestion is the fact that you can positively influence the microbiome, and that is critical. Depression and anxiety, any sort of mood disorder, is directly linked to gut biome issues. The microbiome of the gut directly reflects the microbiome of the mouth, and vice versa. So one of the things that we do know about oils is that they have, this is where I don't want to call it magic, but it kind of is. It's the magic of nature. Because there's something about oils that they will inactivate the bacteria that are, well, let me put it this way. Research states that they inactivate the bad bacteria, and they protect the well-being of the beneficial bacteria, right? Well, all bacteria and bacterial issues it's just about it being out of balance. It's about an instability. So if you have too many of the bad bacteria and not enough of the beneficial bacteria in your gut, this is evidence that your body is not sterilizing your food. Okay, that's what that means. That, or you're eating a lot of food that contains a lot of antibiotics in them. So if you're not, and what I mean by sterilizing your food, and I'm not talking about prior to cooking, I'm talking about, and this goes for people, especially if you're eating a lot of raw foods. Hydrochloric acid is essential for for sterilizing food. Okay, so hydrochloric acid sterilizes our food. So when we eat, it gets into the stomach. Hydrochloric acid, not only it sterilizes our food before it enters the small intestine, and then it also helps to break down the macronutrients. But the sterilization of food is what's critical for maintaining healthy gut flora. So if we have microbiome issues, like I said, unless you're eating foods that are high in antibiotics, the other problem is the fact that your food isn't being sterilized, which is a really good indicator that you don't have enough hydrochloric acid in your stomach. That said, you can actually use oils to stimulate hydrochloric acid. Now, we do know of two particular oils that are very beneficial for supporting microbiome. That would be the caraway, as well as bitter orange. Now, and I'm talking about the bitter orange from the rind. Because there's different types of Citrus aurantium, and so it's not the flower, it's not the leaf, it's actually the rind. That's called bitter orange, generally is what it's labeled as. Those two have been found to, I'm going to sit back, get comfortable in my universe from a different angle. How about that? Anyway, so those two have been found to actually directly support the microbiome. Another way to go about doing this is through oils, like I mentioned earlier, that have alpha-pinene in them. Okay, and alpha-pinene, one of the things that alpha-pinene actually does is it supports the full use of acetylcholine. And as I mentioned earlier, there's a number of oils that have alpha-pinene in them, so you just don't want to randomly go pick up something. I mean, if you did, it's not going to hurt you, truthfully. But if we're dealing with specific issues, like if we're dealing with trauma, there's going to be, and it depends on the symptoms that the body is displaying. But an oil with alpha-pinene supports a fuller use of acetylcholine, because acetylcholine is one of the primary signaling molecules for activating the sympathetic nervous system. And as soon as that happens, acetylcholine is being used for all the excitatory purposes in the system. But it's also required for inhibitory processes, which means we need to have it be used, because guess what? Acetylcholine is responsible for the production of hydrochloric acid. There you go. So that is a reason why, that's another reason why essential oils are very, very beneficial for digestion, because they, meaning those with alpha-pinene, actually support the production or the better use, not the production of, pardon me, a better use of acetylcholine throughout the system, because acetylcholine is number one used in the production of hydrochloric acid, and it's also used in the bowels with supporting bowel movements. There's a regulation of serotonin and acetylcholine in the bowels, and when you have too much serotonin in the bowels, I always get this mixed up, but too much serotonin, this is where IBS comes in. Let's just put it that way. Too much serotonin, I believe, actually results in the loose bowels and diarrhea. Not enough serotonin results in constipation. It could be the opposite way, but regardless, that part doesn't matter. The part that matters is the regulation of acetylcholine and serotonin. And so drinking ginger tea, fresh ginger root tea, would be very helpful in maintaining that. Okay? Helping maintain that. But again, using oils that contain alpha-pinene, and then really selecting them based on what other symptoms are being displayed in the body, to really hone in on the selection of the oil with alpha-pinene. So examples of oils with alpha-pinene, it would be frankincense, katari, rosemary, verbone, cypress. Those are the first three that come to mind. But again, cypress you wouldn't use for digestion. You would use it for other purposes. More respiratory and cardiovascular issues. So, and hormonal issues. Just thinking. So again, oils and there are other ones, but oils that contain alpha-pinene support the better use of acetylcholine. Other oils, okay, so that I'm just thinking again. I'm thinking, and my mind is racing, and I'm thinking and looking at my notes. So that is how we can better support digestion, and that's one big way of eliminating the leaky gut syndrome that we all hear about. If you have, again, so now if there's indigestion involved, and you're not taking an antidepressant, or more specifically an anti-diabetic medication, then you could use lemongrass because of the geraniol constituent in it, because geraniol actually supports methylation, and it also, but the synergy of a lemongrass actually diminishes the effect. It also supports nitric oxide synthase, as well as reducing, like I said, any sort of indigestion. But again, I don't recommend that one at all if you're taking an anti-diabetic medication or an SSRI. The same can be said for the bitter orange. If you're taking an SSRI, please don't use the bitter orange. So these are the things that are really good to know when it comes to using oils and for digestion and oils and trauma. And as I said, there's going to be, it's not an extensive list, but there is a list of oils that I'm going to provide when I post this, that you're welcome to go. I'll put it in a PDF, that way you can actually have it. And I'll even provide you my safety and dilution chart, because how we use oils, or more specifically, just if we can avoid taking them oral dosages, would be great. And as far as diluting them is concerned, well, I'm a big advocate for actually getting more on your skin than less, given the fact that the world is an ongoing, unidentifiable trigger. Oftentimes we don't understand what it is out there, and I talked about this last week. When it comes to, sometimes the triggers are scent oriented, meaning, there's something wafting in the air and we don't even realize it, and it triggers us. So always, I would recommend truthfully carrying something on you, especially if trauma, if you've had serious trauma in your life, and you've got, you could be easily triggered by an aroma. So having your own personalized blend, formulating something that you can carry on your being that would offset the potential scented trigger. Because like I said, there's a lot of visual, there's a lot of auditory, there's a lot, relationship interactions can be triggers, but more specifically, aromas can be triggers that we aren't even aware of. So carrying something on our being not only supports us in that moment and keeps us present to being right, that we're okay, it supports the digestive system, and it offsets that triggering from post-trauma. And so please go visit Synergescence, because it's going to be over on the Synergescence page if you're not watching me there. And like I said, I'll have the safety and dilution chart, and I'll have this little list of oils for you, because it's really a wise thing to be using. Again, a couple weeks ago I talked about using oils in massage therapy, and it should be used, in my opinion, every treatment. More and more people are going for massage, and their trauma, especially if it was physical trauma, it's very difficult to relax and actually receive the benefit of massage. So understanding how to ascertain what your client needs is crucial. And then in the meantime, you could be educating them and supporting their digestive system as well, because trauma blocks our ability to receive, because we put ourselves in a position that was a vulnerable position at some point. And again, like I said in the beginning, trauma has varying degrees. Sometimes we aren't even aware of, the emotional distress. But there again, we are in a vulnerable position, because we're just out and about. We're using consumer goods. We're breathing the air. We never know what we're going to be exposed to. So our vulnerability exposes us to potential traumatizing situations, and therefore now blocks our ability to receive, period. And using essential oils opens us up to receive. If that had to be the takeaway for today, if you got this far and you watched it, hey, thank you, because this is how meaningful it is to me. That when I look at trauma and I realize, as I, not to sound like a broken record, but how much it inhibits our ability to receive, and the fact that we can use oils that will open us up to the degree that we can now receive the benefit of touch, we can receive the benefit of interactions, and more importantly, we can receive the benefit of our foods. So with that, I leave you till next week, 3 o'clock Eastern, here on Making Sense of Sense. Anyway, thanks you guys. I will talk to you then. Have a great rest of your week. Bye.